Good day, everyone. Like you said, I am Seth, and I'm going to talk to you briefly. It's the lighter end of partnerships, and it's what we've been doing up in the Lubombos. Basically, for basic understanding, the Maputaland occurs between South Africa, Swaziland, and Mozambique, and is a large expanse of land. We're going to get to it. It's part of the Maputaland, Pondoland, Albany hotspot, and also houses a number of very important sites that are of significance globally. And we also understand that the region where the Lubombo is happens to be very diverse in terms of ownership, but also in terms of culture, the people living in there. And some of the organizations that are partnering in that include some of the key players in conservation in all the three countries. As you see, that is the Maputaland. And as you would realize that whilst some of these darker areas are conservation areas, we still have space in between that is principally community owned and is not in conservation. The Lubombo is made up of 5 sub-TFCAs that occur between the 3 countries. And then also added there is the Maloloja Songimvelo, which happens between Swaziland and Mpumalanga, which then got added into the Lubombo, even though it's not geographically on the Lubombo. Incidentally, this is also home to some of the most challenged, socioeconomically challenged populations in the region, and this is amongst the rich resource that the region has. And those are your TFCAs, or the 5 sub-TFCAs. As you'd notice that the Maputaland occurs in that region. Now, what enabled this partnership comes from the Lubombo Spatial Development Initiative, which was between the 3 countries. The leadership signed a treaty in '99, and this treaty basically was to look at creating a competitive region where the Lubombo as an area can be able to compete with the rest of the other region in developing and providing opportunities for its people. And this was developed into a Transfrontier General Protocol in 2000, and that gave rise to a structure to coordinate, including a commission and task groups and working groups and secretariat. We have a myriad of partners that we already have on site. This is where I also borrow Brent's disclaimer about partnership. If somebody is not here, my sincere apologies. But those are our partners. Coming down to specifics, we have a program that we call the Lubombo program that we run on the Lubombo. This program was essentially designed in Swaziland, but is extending towards all the other countries, the 3 countries. Basically, it was designed by the Lubombo Conservancy, and this conservancy is a partnership between 6 conservation areas owned by the community. Some are private and some are government owned, and looking at creating a more sustainable and compelling product in the region, as well as using the assets that occur in the region for the profit of the community and the other partners. And the approach that is being used is the landscape approach, and looking at the useful use of ecosystem services. The approach generally is looking at building on existing initiatives and we have globally significant hotspots there, and we have very interesting landscapes, and we also have a very rich cultural landscape as well. And the approach also includes optimizing the potential of the area to look at generating income for the communities using the natural resource and tourism. And to look at stepping up from things that have already been done, like the integrated development plan that is being done by the Transfrontier Conservation Areas, which is a more government approach to development in the area, and making sure that the communities benefit from there. And part of the approach also includes identifying and assessing all the assets that are available to the communities. Part of it includes the individual communities and also generally the landscape across the board. And this includes developing knowledge of the communities and assisting in the planning process, and assisting in mainstreaming the principles of sustainability, so that instead of looking at short-term benefits, the community can actually understand the benefit long-term. We also look at creating maps and assessment, as well as assisting in valuation of the biodiversity in the community. Now, essentially, the process includes a step-by-step process where the communities get to participate right through each of those processes, from carrying out the basic assessments to being part of the mapping as they know the area better, to looking at the assets themselves. We also do eco-business planning with the community, identifying assets as a region, the whole escarpment of the Lubombo, putting it in context and developing a strategy or a business strategy that will be implemented at local level, identifying assets that the community can probably use for generating income, and then reinforce existing things. Like I had mentioned, there's a number of other initiatives that are already in the area that are churning out outputs that we can actually lean on. And then also developing partners. We have a number of partners, but some interesting partners, for example, like GIZ and the Kingsley Holgate Foundations, have actually made a big impact in the area, especially for the community. Now, as part of the planning process, we have looked at a model that was originally used to develop the Shewula Mountain Camp, which is a 100% community-owned camp that has been very successful in Swaziland. They've recently won the Equator Prize, the Equator Award, for being one of the successful conservation efforts done by a community. For that, we are proud, and we are trying to duplicate some of that. And part of the process included piloting in some of the area. One of the areas is in Mhlumeni Community, and which is a community where hardly anything else can be done. They can't keep wildlife. They can't keep livestock rather, and they can't grow crops successfully because the climate and the soils are not good. But they have very, very rich assets. So when we did the pilots, part of the reason was to look at providing an option about what else can they do in the event some of the things they've done have not been successful. And as part of the process of doing that pilot, we partnered with the Netherlands government to develop a model of participatory mapping and ecosystem service evaluation and planning. And then we're looking at duplicating some of these processes right over the Lubombo. And as we are going, we're leveraging support on some of our partnerships, including Italian NGO COSPE, who have come to the party realizing the potential of the process and the program. The Netherlands government, GIZ, and the Kingsley Holgate Foundation, as well as Peace Parks. I must mention that there are a number of other partners that we've engaged, including Space for Elephants, to look at the potential of exploring what other options can be done on the area. Now, as a result of building on already existing work that has been done, the TFCA program has looked at developing an IDP, which looks at making an attempt at a holistic approach in the area. You notice that originally we had a TFCA there, we had another one there, and then we had that area and then that area. But the IDP recommended that we actually cover that whole area, and instead of doing piecemeal audit, we actually become much more holistic. So the Eco Lubombo program looks at covering the southern part originally, and then it is extending to Goba, extending to the areas of Katwan and Matutuin in Mozambique. We're also looking at partnerships with the Sudukoj in South Africa because of the TFCA existence. So what's giving light, or what's happening in the partnerships, or some of the activities, the planning among stakeholders and sharing of information happens, and we share also skills with the communities. For example, if we get somebody that will be doing mapping, instead of just walking into the community and doing your maps, part of what you do is get somebody from the community that's going to be an understudy and get to pick up some skills. Same with asset assessment, same as community participation. The people get to understand what they are getting themselves into, what's going to be the benefit for them. We also look at the partners' complementarity, what other partners can do better. Those that can do conservation better sometimes may not necessarily be into the community participation, so the complementarity happens there, as well as borrowing some of the key aspects of the TFCA, like game sharing. One example in a planning meeting is the number of partners that we already have. This was one of the planning meetings that we had in the Goba area, which is next to Mhlumeni, the pilot sites. We have people from Chesvi, which is an NGO working in Mozambique, involved with the community traditional authority. We have people from the community. We have the Ministry of Tourism in Mozambique. We have GIZ funders. We have COSPE. We have TFCA. We have members of the Eco Lubombo program. These people are working in Mozambique. These are working in the Lubombo. But this is the authority. They give us the political leeway to be there. Okay, so some of the activities that happen along the Lubombo include getting the community to participate in some of the activities, including putting up fences for some of the conservation areas, or doing assessments in some of the ecosystems, or even getting capacity from those that can be able to lend for use of the community, and getting the community to be part of some of the processes that get to happen in the development of the conservation areas. We see the Lubombo in the background there. Game sharing, part of the TFCA process is to, for example, a lot of this game came from Ezemvelo KZN Wildlife coming into part of our areas like Jozini. And instead, of course, we understand that Ezemvelo KZN Wildlife could have probably culled this, but instead chose to share that game with Swaziland. And that creates a proper park. Okay, and complementarity, for example, we have parks that will create a full lodge, an upmarket restaurant, or camping sites, or education centers. It doesn't have to be all in the same area. And even in the communities can actually participate in some of the areas that they think would benefit them the most. Also, the variety of landscapes that occurs in the area creates very good complementarity. In conclusion, some of our challenges include community engagement is quite extensive and takes time. You don't have to rush for a particular product, but you need the community to understand what they're doing, so it may take your time. It also is important to help the community understand that they own the product. And then, of course, there's a lot of conflicting land uses. It's a community area. They have half the time they have their priorities. It's still the Maputaland. Would like to see it being properly managed. So it takes a bit of a process to see if there's a change in those land uses. And of course, there's always a challenge on community, or rather on resources or availability. Okay, thank you.